What are you doing in this part of town? Just driving home from work, sir. You better start telling me the truth. I know you're the one that robbed the jewelry store. What? Officer, I swear I didn't do anything. I was just driving home. Sir, you need to calm down. I saw the police officer put a hand on his gun holster, and I remained quiet after that. Then the officer walked back over to the police cruiser, and I was able to hear him requesting backup through his radio. This is Officer Reynolds, requesting backup down on Main Street. I have the robbery suspect detained, and he's becoming aggressive. My name is Brandon Williams, and I'm a highly respected lawyer in my city. I've spent years fighting tirelessly for justice as a defense attorney, which has garnered me a more than trustworthy reputation in the local community. Over the course of my career, I've defended everyone from regular citizens all the way up to high-class aristocrats, using my sharp mind and unyielding dedication to the law to find the truth. I work as hard as I can to bring justice to my clients, and I'm well liked for it. That's why I was so surprised by the events of one summer evening. I was driving home from work after a long day in court, feeling a little tired, but still aware of my surroundings and following the traffic laws. Even when tired, I'm always mindful of my actions behind the wheel. On one of the streets I turned onto, I noticed red and blue lights coming from behind my car, and I saw a police car in my rearview mirror. Immediately, I got nervous. I knew I had done nothing wrong, and the police like to single out black people like myself. A couple seconds later, the officer's voice came out of the speakers. Driver in the sedan, pull over immediately. I pulled over as quickly and safely as I could and turned the car off as I waited for the officer to approach. My heart was racing. I'd been pulled over before, but only for small reasons, like when my taillight was broken or my license plates had expired. I could tell that this time was different. The officer appeared at my door, and I rolled down the window as I put on a straight face. Good evening, officer. Can I help you with something? Do you know why I pulled you over? I was nervous at the officer's commanding tone of his voice. I could tell that this wasn't just a regular traffic stop, and I don't know what I had done wrong. No, I don't. Is there a problem, officer? What are you doing in this part of town? Just driving home from work, sir. You better start telling me the truth. I know you're the one that robbed the jewelry store. What? Officer, I swear I didn't do anything. I was just driving home. Sir, you need to calm down. I saw the police officer put a hand on his gun holster, and I remained quiet after that. Then the officer walked back over to the police cruiser, and I was able to hear him requesting backup through his radio. This is Officer Reynolds, requesting backup down on Main Street. I have the robbery suspect detained, and he's becoming aggressive. Robbery? I didn't rob anyone. I was just driving through. My nerves worsened as I thought over what I'd done so far. After my day in court, I'd returned to my office to drop off a couple of files, and then I got in my car to head home. As far as I knew, I hadn't broken any traffic laws, and certainly nothing that required more cops to show up. So why was the officer accusing me of robbing a jewelry store? Only a few minutes later, and another police cruiser arrived at the scene. Officer Reynolds returned to my door, and his tone had become more aggressive than before. Step out of the car, Mr. Williams. Officer, I haven't done anything wrong. I didn't rob anybody. Officer Reynolds ignored me and opened the door for me. At that point, I knew I had to comply, and I stepped out of the car. When I did, I got a good look at the second officer, who was younger and seemed to have less experience, and noticed that he looked nervous. His badge identified him as Officer Jacobs. Is this the robbery suspect? Definitely. Hands behind your back. Please, officer, I didn't do anything. Quiet. You're under arrest for grand theft.
What's going on?
That man's being arrested.
What did he do?
The officer keeps saying that he robbed a jewelry store nearby. Then he called for backup and put him in handcuffs.
So did he rob the store? I don't know. He keeps saying it wasn't him.
The group of people that had gathered around the scene looked worried for me, and some even questioned why the officers were arresting me, but nobody stepped in to help. Even though everyone could see I was pleading my innocence, I was on my own. Officer Reynolds placed me in the back of his patrol car, and I couldn't help wondering what had happened. Maybe Officer Reynolds had simply mistaken me for somebody else? Or was he targeting me specifically? The officers drove off, abandoning my car on the side of the road, and made their way to the police station. I kept silent on the drive. My legal expertise wouldn't help me in this moment of vulnerability. My rights had already been ignored, so reminding them of that wouldn't do me any favors. Not long after that, the patrol car pulled into the police station parking lot, and Officer Reynolds led me through the station into a small holding cell. Officer Jacobs joined Officer Reynolds, and they stood across the hall as they spoke in a hushed tone. They would keep glancing over at me, and I could tell that they were talking about my arrest. Something about it was wrong, and I got the feeling they were trying to get their side of the story straight. Officers, please, I didn't do anything. I wasn't anywhere near the store today. I was in court. I'm a defense attorney. The officers looked over when I mentioned being a lawyer, but they remained where they were and didn't answer my call. Excuse me, I want to make my phone call now. I need to speak to a lawyer. Neither officer responded to my calls, and I got more and more worried. If I couldn't get legal representation, I would be in a lot of trouble. The hours passed, and I felt my hopes slowly draining. Did you hear? What? The police arrested Brandon Williams. That's not possible. What did he do? Onlookers were saying that the cops kept accusing him of the jewelry store heist earlier today. That's ludicrous. We have to do something for him.
And somebody already has. John Mitchell's on his way to the station to represent Brandon.
John Mitchell? He's one of the best defense attorneys out there. He'll be able to get him out of there for sure. I'm here to see my client, Brandon Williams.
Oh, you're representing him, are you? I'll see if he's available.
After several hours in the cell, one of the officers opened the door and escorted me to an interrogation room. I was surprised and relieved to see my colleague, John Mitchell, waiting for me. Thank you for coming, Mr. Mitchell. Of course. Now, what can you tell me about the events leading up to your arrest? Not much. I went to work, I spent the day in court, and after stopping by my office, I got into my car and started driving home. What happened after that? Well, Officer Reynolds pulled me over, accused me of robbing the jewelry store, and called for backup. Then he put the handcuffs on me and brought me here. This is highly irregular, Brandon. I don't see any valid reason for your arrest. We're going to get you out of here as soon as possible. As soon as he left the interrogation room, John immediately got to work trying to clear my name. He went to the other police officers and demanded answers as to why I was arrested, and didn't get any reasonable explanation. He'd also contacted the local news in order to bring attention to my situation and shine a light on what the police had done to me. Within hours, community leaders, civil rights activists, and other lawyers arrived at the station in protest of what had been done to me. Not long after that, the local news team arrived to report on the situation.
We're currently outside of the police station where local defense attorney Brandon Williams is currently being held. According to criminal defense attorney John Mitchell, Mr. Williams has done nothing wrong, despite the police arresting him for grand theft of the local jewelry store. It is currently thought that Mr. Williams was arrested simply because of his race. When we asked the officers responsible for comment, they declined to speak with us.
During the local news coverage, it had been discovered that Officer Reynolds had a history of racial profiling and misconduct. His actions on the day I had been taken to the police station were determined to be a gross abuse of power, and that my arrest was based solely on the color of my skin. Internal Affairs soon became involved and conducted a thorough investigation of Officer Reynolds and Officer Jacobs. They found that the actions of Officer Reynolds violated the policies in the department and civil rights, and he was fired from the police force as a result. Officer Jacobs, while he did not participate in my arrest, was suspended without pay for a substantial period of time due to his failure to report the misconduct or intervene. Once I was free and my name and reputation had been cleared, the mayor issued a public apology to me. They said my arrest was a glaring example of the systemic issues embedded within the police department, and that it would spark much-needed conversations about racial profiling and the way police abuse their power. The experience, while turbulent, reaffirmed my faith in the legal system and shows that justice will prevail. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.